Hey, what's happening, class? Mr. Lee here. I just want to show you a couple of little techniques that you could use actually with the Pico software and your desktop software as well, just so you can start saving these captures, making notes on your captures, and just kind of making this process a little bit more organized. Okay, everybody should be pretty familiar with all the basic stuff that I showed you up to this point, but I want to show you some other stuff that you can actually do with this program. Okay, right now I'm under this demonstration mode, so this is just like a preset, like a loaded. It looks like a signal that just loaded up here. Looks like an injector signal of some sort, right? Or like a solenoid signal of the on time of a certain solenoid, and you can see the voltage amplitude there. So first thing I want to show you is labeling, channel labeling. Okay, we began to load up multiple channels on a certain screen, such as your relative compression and your what do you call it? The when you were checking the ramping of your coils or ramping of the injectors that I showed you last week. It could get pretty confusing. You have multiple signals on the screen, and sometimes the leads get all twisted, and they're not. Especially when using the amp clamps, all the wires are those skinny little black cables, so it's hard to keep track of what's going on. You can label. So how you do that? So let's go down here. If you notice at the bottom toolbar, you see this button says label. You can hit label, and look at this. You can actually label channel A. You select which, this one, well, you only have one choice. If we had more than one channel loaded, then you can actually select whichever one you want to label. So in this case, we're labeling channel A. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna pick something. It doesn't even matter at this point. Let's just pretend. Okay, whatever. You can actually custom label it too, right? We'll just call this sample. Okay, I'll just call it sample. Okay, over here you can enter notes. For instance, let's just pretend we got a customer's car in, and this is before. Okay, let's just hypothetically say this capture was before you did the repair. So you could say before repairs. Right, this way, remember, when we diagnose something, we always got to verify the customer's concern. After you verify the customer's concern, you got to analyze, isolate, repair, and then verify the repair. But how you verify it, you got to make sure you have a capture of before. You got to have data from before you actually did any correction. So we'll call this before repairs, and we'll just, I don't know, pretend we'll just call this bad, right? Or again, you can be very, very specific. You can type something in like bad ground or whatever, okay? So that's one thing you can do with the measurement bar down there, okay? The next thing I want to show you is a couple of things. So obviously, I taught you could hit this button automatically. It'll auto set up, right? That'll auto set up the best settings to capture the current signal. That's one thing you can do, right? But let's say you've made a capture and you just want to zoom in. You want to get a better view of things, right? So let me do this. Let's just pause this for a second. This signal, you notice, is bouncing all over the screen. We might want to run a trigger. I'll just hit auto, see what's up. Okay, well, that works. Something like that. Let me actually just put it there. All right, so I'm going to stop it. Okay, so when you're looking at this, obviously it seems pretty compressed. You might want to zoom in or get a more detailed look. So there's two things you can do. First, let's without, and again, this is without adjusting anything. All right, I'm just gonna go to the horizontal scaling function. Notice how that it stays locked into where that trigger is. You can expand it horizontally. That looks pretty good like that. And again, if you need to go more closely, you can do that. It's not a big deal, right? Another thing too, it seems like the voltage is a little bit, like we can actually expand this a little bit more too. It's kind of squished, right? So in that case, so let's move this down a little bit. And if you look down here, you see this X1 here, right? That'll be your vertical scaling. Okay, you click on that, left click on that. Notice here, the scale left and right. Watch what happens when you hit right. Well, up, let's say, right? See that? Down. If you need to squish the amplitude of the signal. See, you can go up and down. In this case, we'll do that. Bring it down like that, and that's a nice capture that you can analyze, right? And if you notice when you clicked on that as well, there's offset. Offset just moves the signal left and right, or up and down. In this case, it's always up and down, right? But you can actually do that like I taught you before. You can grab that and move it up and down, or you can use the offset. It's not a big deal. Okay. Another thing here is, let's say you want to zoom in and zoom out. You've already experimented with that, but you can also use this magnifying glass, the one that the first one, the windowed zoom, which allows you to essentially grab a capture of the screen. Like, let's say grab a certain section of the screen and zoom in. You can do that as well. That's another option, obviously, right? Okay, so another thing I wanted to address was a lot of you just you're trying to remember all the settings, and you're trying to see what your presets were for all your different like your sampling rates and all that, and all your channel settings. Obviously you can take your phone out and snap a pic, but another thing that you could do in terms of a real world situation, this is a good way of archiving and keeping your signals, on file. Let's say one day you run a shop and you're using Pico to diagnose your vehicles. You want to keep track of which signals belong to which car, which customer, and have like a history, basically, right? So what I did was I went over here and I just went to my desktop and I created a file. We'll call it Pico. I just called it Pico. This is an imaginary file, a pretend file folder for me to keep my scope patterns based on the vehicle that I worked on, right? So I'll create another folder. We'll just call this Hyundai sample. Okay, call it whatever. Okay, I'm going to here. Then I'm going to go back to my Pico screen here. So let's just imagine we have a bad signal. Okay, let's just pretend we got a bad signal here. I just want to save it on file on my computer. And in your case, for you guys, you can use it just to save how you set up the channel so you can duplicate it next time. Most desktop software, like I think it comes with Windows. It's called the snipping tool. It's like a print screen, right? I think you can just hit print screen, but actually, let me try both ways. Let's see if I can hit print screen here. I just hit print screen. Did anything happen? Actually, I can't even tell. So let's just play it safe. You guys that are computer savvy, you might have a better way of doing this. So I'm gonna go new, and I'm just gonna go up here, and I'm gonna grab a screen capture of what I got going on here. Okay, do that. I'm gonna go right click. I'm gonna right click on what I just snipped off the screen. I'm gonna go copy, okay, and load up something like Paint. Okay, use Microsoft Paint, and then you hit Control V. Boom. Now there's my screen capture. And another thing you can do is, obviously, if this was in a practical setting, how I would use this, I would save this capture as like before the repair and put some information about the car, right? So text, I can actually put some text here too. I'm going to type over here. I can make that text smaller. I don't know, we'll call it Hyundai bad ground, whatever, blah blah blah, right? This is just pretend, make believe. We're just using our imagination. Okay, so I saved that, right? You can even do more things, such as if you use a brush, you can use a marker. And for example, I don't know, this is just arbitrary. Let's just say you want to highlight that and there's an issue here, make some more notes. You'd save it. Let's come over here, save as image. We'll call this before repair, right? I don't know, injector. This is all meaningless. I just want to show you how, like, a way to use this software a little better. Let's just pretend, okay? So now I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to my Hyundai folder. So obviously, I forgot to save it here. So we're going to take that, right click, cut, go back, paste. So now, basically, what I'm trying to tell you is, if this was my shop and I had a whole bunch of customers' cars files here, then I would have a folder, say Hyundai. Most likely, the best thing to do is also put the date, put more information like the car, the VIN, whatever it is, and then save that file. So then I'll do a repair, right? After I do the repair, I'll do the exact same thing, and I can load it up and compare, right? To show like the before and after, and you're never going to remember all the different repairs that you do, right? So this way, it's always good to keep track of this stuff so you can have reference in case somebody asks, what did I pay for? What did you actually do to my car? Right? You actually have all this information readily available at your fingertips, right? And it's always good to just keep a history of this stuff. What I plan to do is eventually maybe we do these like group projects where maybe we can all investigate a certain signal, put a fault in it, and then this way you guys can actually present it in the class, right? You can do a snapshot and make some notations on the graphic here, and everybody can go up and use the podium in class, and we can all present a signal, like how you repaired it, and you can maybe explain what was wrong with the signal visually, right? Actually, it'll be easier to see visually if you can actually put it up as a still image on the big screen and make all your notations using the Paint software. So yeah, anyway, I hope this helps. I think it's a cool way to do this and a very useful way to do this. So to review what we talked about, I used Pico, showed you how to label the channel, show you a different way of zooming, show you a way of scaling your amplitudes and also scaling your horizontal time, right, as well, and being able to take a capture, save it to a folder, right, to keep track of all the vehicles you work on, right, and also to use the Paint software, which allows you to start scribbling notes on it, let's say, right? Eventually, you would have a good signal, then you can make a little notation, let's say, okay, after repairing the ground or doing whatever, blah, 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 replacing the injector, the signal is now okay. And it's good this way, so if you ever have the same problem in the shop that you work at one day, you have a reference, right? You have a known good signal, right? For example, if we were checking relative compression or valve timing issues or whatnot, you have a known good signal, like a good pattern to compare it to, right? So yeah, that's it.